everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Santiago, an emerging artist living in Melbourne, and for today's video we're gonna do something very special. Like some of you, I've been trying to put my artworks in several galleries, and it has been always challenging trying to develop the right approach, how you manage to stay in touch with them, how you're gonna build up the relationship with those galleries, how you're gonna present your works. And I reckon these questions that are really important, most of people don't have an answer for that and just go with the flow. So what I've been trying to do in this video is gather all the questions you guys have, some of my questions too, and then contacting a gallery that was able to answer those questions or someone in behalf of the gallery. Now Vito, jump. This is my cat, by the way. She's very clingy, as you can see. Anyway, let's go for the video. I got one reply who was very keen on sharing all the information of how they see artists and how a successful relationship between gallery and artist for those commercial galleries should look like. So I made an interview with them, and this is what you're gonna see right now. Hi guys, we're here with the gallery's curator of Brunswick Street Gallery. I'm very excited about this chance to ask some important questions, probably very relevant for a lot of people. How's it going?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for giving me a chance to ask all of these questions.
Hi, I'm Alex Ramsdale. I am the exhibitions manager and a curator at Brunswick Street Gallery. I have been working here since September 2023, nearly for a year. Previous to this, I was the art category manager at Fenton & Fenton, which is a very commercial furniture and art shop in Melbourne. This gallery has been open at least since 2006, although it's had a couple of different owners or directors. So it's had a few different iterations. So 2006, there was one owner. The current owner, Brunswick Street Gallery, has been running it since 2012. We have been around for such a long time, so a lot of locals know us as a business. But we also operate in a very interesting space. We are upstairs on 2 levels above the street level in quite a unique building which has a lot of character because of its age. By having this space which has a lot of different gallery rooms, I think that provides a very different experience to a lot of visitors, mainly because we are able to exhibit a lot of different artists at the one time. It's not as sterile an environment as some of the new galleries or kind of concrete spaces. It's got a lot of warmth to it because of its age, the features of the building that are quite quirky but unique. Brunswick Street Gallery, because we operate predominantly as a gallery for hire, we do have a very unique way of operating, and therefore it attracts quite unique types of art. The artists that we work with are predominantly artists that are not represented by other galleries, so it tends to attract artists that are in the early stages of their career or that have maybe had some time away from their practice and then are returning to their practice. It means that we have artists exhibiting with us that may not have exhibited before, and so therefore have quite a unique style.
So how do you see Australian art fitting into the global art scene nowadays?
I think Australian art's really unique. Obviously there's lots of different facets of it. There are artwork that is being sold, more commercial, and then there's institutional artwork, and then you obviously have, I think in another bracket entirely, is Indigenous work. Australian art for me is quite decorative. There's definitely a really big emphasis on it being visually and aesthetically pleasing. We have so many artists in Australia, very talented artists, based on probably the influence of colour that we see in Australia. We tend to get artists that do have that edge towards nice or aesthetically pleasing artwork. I came to live in Melbourne after living in London for 4 years. When I came back, I think the main differences have really been more in a financial, commercial way. The last 5 to 6 years we've been through the COVID pandemic, and then we've also had somewhat of a recession or like a financial crisis. That's really affected more sales of art. For example, during the kind of COVID years, everyone was spending a lot of time at home, and they started to pivot their kind of spending towards things that they might have in their home, such as art, furniture. So we saw a massive rise in sales. A lot of artists as well were coming out of the woodwork. People were at home, they might not have had a job or they were working part-time, so they decided that they wanted to start making and develop their practice. They started to, post their work on social media platforms and were selling a lot of their work through social media. There were really different ways of showing your work to people. People couldn't come and see it in the gallery space because the galleries were closed. There was a lot of really quick development on how we digest art through those COVID years. And so that's been a massive influence to what we're seeing today. The influence on the gallery is drastic as well, because a lot of artists are now just promoting their work. They might not necessarily be represented by a single gallery, which is great for Brunswick Street Gallery as well, because when they do decide that they want to have an exhibition, there's less strings attached here, so they can come in, use our service, and then go out and go elsewhere to other gallery spaces around Australia and really build up that market growth and their followers. And I think just as an artist as well, I would develop a really different strategy to how it was before. So kind of gone are the days of having a gallery pick you up and represent you and having to rely on that. You can actually be your own driver. There's so many more tools available for artists to really run their own marketing strategy and develop their following.
We've been talking about the environment and the gallery. Now let's talk a bit more about the gallery's visitors.
I would say we have around 100 visitors each day on the weekends, and then during the week it's dependent on who's exhibiting with us and probably weather dependent. Visitor wise, I would say a big chunk would be students. A lot would be brought in by the artists themselves. So again, it varies based on where the artist is sitting in their life. Are they a mature age artist or are they fresh out of university? I think that really influences who visits us. And one of the great things about having lots of different artists from different backgrounds exhibiting at the same time is the followers of those artists can come and then they can see all the other work that's on display. We have collectors from early 30s, late 60s, although the later in age, often the more art they already have, so they start to reduce the amount that they buy, or they're a bit more discerning. Whereas if you think about who's going to have the most wall space, it's often young professionals in a couple without kids, or people who have just renovated a home. We have a lot of people that come through us because we have such a varied amount of work. They come through us to buy presents, so artwork as gifts, and that buyer is looking at work that's priced around 800 or under. So smaller pieces do really well here.
How interested are your collectors in the content of the works beyond the purely commercial value?
Oh, I think massively. It's like when you meet a person, you might judge that person on face value, but if you want to spend more time with that person, you've got to really get to know them at their core, or at least a bit more about them. And it's the same when people are looking for art for their homes. Generally, you can get that initial interest by people seeing the work and being attracted to it, but to get them to buy it, to cross them over the line, you also have to have the concept, and I think that's really what sells it, and especially if that buyer is really connected to the concept.
Do you see people in here aiming to get art that resembles what is happening in Europe for what is happening in the States, rather than being interested in what has been developing here?
I definitely think Australia has its own style, that it is quite different. When I look at the work that's being made at the moment in Australia, it does sit on its own. It doesn't feel like it's heavily influenced by American or European art, although just based on possibly the learning. So when you go to art school, you learn about the art movements, which have been from Europe and America, and I think a lot of people take their own personal influences from those artists. I feel that's not necessarily like something that we gravitate towards. It's just something that happens, and if you've been looking at art for a really long time, I think that just generally permeates into your psyche and the way that you make work.
How do you, as a curator, take advantage of the fact that Melbourne is kind of like a melting pot where are artists from all over the world?
Well, I think we definitely take advantage of it because we have 6 or 7 exhibitions that run at the same time. What we're really looking for when we're booking those shows or curating our exhibition schedule is artwork that's unique, is quite different from the other works that are being shown. So we try not to put artists that have a really similar style in the same period, so that if there's a landscape artist or if there's an abstract artist, that work really shines on its own and it doesn't need to be compared to someone else's work. So we make a really conscious decision to curate our shows that way. It really benefits to have like artists that have different experiences. You've been working with a lot of artists that are in their early stages of their careers. Mm-hmm. So, in your opinion, what makes a successful artist, like from the gallery perspective? Galleries, just like anything else, are businesses and they need to make money, and so a successful artist is an artist that sells. And the way to sell your work is to have your own voice. So it's got to be unique, the style that you're working in. It's got to be well presented. Really consider framing and medium that you're using. For example, you want the medium that you're using to be archival, like it needs to last a long time because someone's going to buy it and it's made out of, glue and things that just disintegrate over time, or fluoro paint, which is also something that doesn't really last. That artwork that's sold is only going to last in the client's home for about 5 years, and then they're going to be a bit upset when it doesn't look the same way that it did when they first bought it. So that's really, really important, and that's what we look for. Beyond that, for me, is someone that is recognizable. So if I'm looking around galleries or visiting galleries and I see their work again and again and again, I can say that belongs to that particular artist. We look at representing artwork, all different mediums. We try to have a good balance of sculpture-based practices and photography. It's not always really commercial, some of the exhibitions that we show. I think we look for artists that tell a story as well. So if you can tell a really convincing and interesting story and have that quite accessible to visitors through the work, then I think that's really important as well. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see artists making is that they have too many different types of styles, or they haven't really found their voice yet, so they might make a lot of different work. For example, some of their pieces are landscapes, some of them are portraits, some of them are abstract, and they haven't quite found their voice. And what they do is they often come to us with all of these ideas. What I tend to say is, like, if you're going to have an exhibition, that exhibition is on its own, has to be a collection of works that they work with each other, or they have a story to tell that's quite specific to the exhibition. Having lots of different styles is not only going to be confusing to visitors, it's also going to be really hard to explain in like the short period of time that people are going to be there experiencing the work. So if you, as an emerging artist, when you want to exhibit in a gallery, approach them with one idea. Be like, this is what the exhibition is going to look like, this is what this exhibition specifically talks about, and this is how it relates to my overall practice. The gallery is going to respond in a much better way. They're there because they have experience from the other side. They're going to know what their client likes, and they're going to be able to tell you what it is they want from that artist. I would say it's very important. I think a lot of people, visitors and collectors, they want to see that online presence and see that the artist is serious about their ongoing practice. When I'm personally looking at an artist's work and whether we wanted to offer them an exhibition, I will always go and have a look at Instagram profile or have a look at their website and see how consistent their practice is, because that's a really important factor when you're looking at how successful an artist is going to be. It's also how a lot of buyers are going to find your work, or collectors or people even interested in your work that might not be in a position to buy your work in the gallery right now. They're going to want to follow you and know that they have that connection to be able to purchase work when they're ready. Definitely try to exhibit. I think it's really beneficial to just put yourself out there. Exhibiting artwork is part of being an artist, and I think you learn so much from it that each time you do it, you'll learn something new. Don't hold yourself back. Don't wait until you've got like a body of work. Start to try and put yourself out there and have those experiences so that when you are ready, you have a bit more knowledge and experience.
Thank you so much for your time and for sharing all this knowledge with us. Any final words?
Yeah, appreciate the conversation. Thanks for visiting us.
Navito, I'm making a video. You want to be a YouTuber? I hope all of this information is going to be very helpful for you guys, and hopefully it will let you develop your own plan to approach the galleries you want to exhibit with in a very successful way. If you have any other questions related to this topic, just let me know. I can just keep asking other galleries and stuff. If you like this content, just, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you once again to Brunswick Street Gallery and Alex for sharing all of that information with us, and see you in the next one. Bye.